Hi, and welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. This is DV LeBron. I got a little bit earlier today, but that's fine. I have a very special guest. I have Miss Anna Hammonds on. She is running for Place 3 Midlothian City Council. Miss Anna, how are you?
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I aim to get these candidates out there so people can see them, and I appreciate when people like you participate. And like I tell all the candidates that come on here, thank you for wanting to serve. You're
Yeah.
getting into the meat grinder of local politics, so it's definitely something that I appreciate you as a person for wanting to serve your community.
Yeah,
So, can you
thanks.
go ahead and tell the people about you? Are you originally from here? Just kind of give the people of Midlothian a bio.
Yeah. So I'm married to my husband Danny. We moved to Midlothian about 9 years ago, and we have four kiddos. Ages, I always have to think, ages almost 14, 12, almost 9, and 7. And they are in Midlothian ISD. We have two at Dietrich and two at Mountain Peak. And my husband and I both grew up in Grand Prairie and Arlington. So we knew that eventually we'd want to come out to a smaller town. And so we have a lot of fun as a family. We're actively involved in our church. I've been involved in a lot of different nonprofits across the community, and we just love this community. We love Midlothian, and so I'm sure we'll get into all of this. But whenever this opportunity came up for me to run, it's something I'm very excited about at the idea of serving the community more. So yeah.
That's good. I mean, I I also came from somewhere else, and this is a really good community. I
Yeah.
love Ellis County. It's just a great place to live, and
Yeah.
Midlothian, especially. It's a very nice place. So you've been involved. Now you're deciding to go ahead and run. So,
Mhm.
what made you want to run for city council?
So, like I said, I've been involved in a lot of things across the community and across the county, but heavily in Midlothian. And so, as I was thinking about the idea of running for council, I definitely looked at it as an idea to be able to broaden and deepen my involvement. I do kind of nerd out on some of the codes and the rules and how things function on the city level. But I liked the idea of getting to be a representative of the city to the community and of the community to the city. And so I'm big on transparency and accessibility. And so that's one thing I felt like I brought to the table was being able to be an ambassador for the community, of having roots here and a lot of connections in different places. I want people to come and talk to me. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about your concerns or what you're excited about. And then the other thing is obviously growth is a huge topic around here. And
Yeah,
we
we're
have
gonna get to it.
really, yeah,
We're gonna get to
we always get to that part. But we have really exciting projects coming to Midlothian. And so I want to have a seat at the table and making some of the decisions around that and making sure that we're growing carefully and strategically. And that we continue to be a place where my kids, where I want my kids to live and my grandkids, hopefully will all stay here kind of thing. So yeah, it just makes me really excited to be a part of all those things.
and that is that's fabulous when somebody wants to be part of it and then lead. And there are a lot of things coming. If people haven't noticed it, it's getting bigger.
Mm,
So
yeah.
um a wise man from here in Midlothian, a wise person, told me that one of the things that are needed greatly is not so much just wanting to be on the council, but wanting to put the time in to be
Mm,
on the council, because there's a lot of things that you have to read through. There's a lot of things you have to be involved in, a lot of public events,
yeah.
and in order to be represent the community. So
Yeah.
are you willing to put that time in that you're going to have
Yeah.
to know the right things, and be able to be informed when you vote and do things for the
Yeah.
people of Midlothian?
Yeah. So whenever I was considering running, that was one of the questions I started asking around current councilmen and others of saying, hey, how much time do you spend on average every week? And based off of those conversations and based off of how I would like to serve, I'm averaging about 20 hours a week on this. And of course, this is post campaigning. This is after like getting in the seat. Campaigning is a whole nother time commitment. But afterwards, and I'm allocating 20 hours, about 20 hours a week, and obviously that ebbs and flows depending on what's going on. But that's everything from the council meetings to workshops to city events. I'm big on wanting to be a representative at our chamber functions and at our events and ribbon cuttings and welcoming new people in the community and going to coffees. I mean, it can be a lot of work. You can spend as much time or as little time as you want on it. And I don't want to go into this unless I know I can give it a good amount of time. And like you mentioned, so if you're getting the campaign packet for the council meeting on a Thursday, I have 4 or 5 days there to prep for that. Am I reviewing the whole packet? Am I asking questions? Am I coming to the table ready and not asking questions that I could have been answered by looking at the packet? So I'm a highly efficient person, so I want to get in there and let's have some good good productive meetings because we all come prepared. So
And preparation is key, definitely, when you're trying to run a city for the community. That is definitely key. So I wanted to get into quick fundamentals. I do this with all the candidates, and it might get a little monotonous, but how you vote and how you do things comes down to your principles. So if your principles say one thing, your chances are you're not going to vote a different way. So I'm going to ask you, what is the role of government in the lives of its people?
okay. So as a council member, well, so let me back up. So the role of government, I'm not for real heavy government involvement. As a council member, I think there's four roles there. One's, legislator, coming up, not necessarily with laws, but how things are done, rules and ordinances and things like that. Another one is being an ambassador, like I already had mentioned, policymaker, so ordinances, the controversy over how we're doing masks in our town and things like that. And then the fourth one is employer, so obviously we're working hand in hand with the staff and oversee directly a couple of staff members with the city. So that's where I think we should stay. I think we should, as a city council member in the government role within the city, I think we need to be staying in those areas and not overstepping our bounds in that area.
Yeah, limited government is definitely a principle a lot of people appreciate. Um, there was a time when that had to, or when that kind of changed, and that was obviously when COVID reared its head. And right now, God willing, it's we're past that. But um, when that came along, there were a lot of things done, and it's easy to kind of look back and say, well, maybe this could have been done differently. What are your thoughts on certain things that were done by government? Would they be something that you supported, like for instance, mask mandates or anything like that? I know that they
Yeah.
passed a law or stuff, I believe, on that, and but like, what are your thoughts on those things?
I'm personally not big on the mandate. The way I view everyone is you make the best decision for you and your family, and let's all respect each other's opinions on that. I don't think we should be telling people that they have to wear a mask or they have to get a vaccine or whatnot. And then even some of the rules around when we were shutting down businesses and how they were rolling out what businesses were open when, that got all sorts of wonky. So, that was something I hope we never have to get into ever again. But yeah, I think we can respect one another enough and honor each other enough to allow people to make their own individual decision and then actually respect them for the decision that they're making and not harp on people for not having the same opinion as we do.
Since that definitely is something that is needed, because it seems like we often we're talking at each other instead of to
Yeah.
each other. So
Yeah.
what would you do to talk to people, or would you be open to talk to people that maybe don't agree with you, or maybe don't like how you voted, or maybe are just ideologically different from you, are you
Yeah.
open to talking to those people?
Yeah. One of my kind of primary pillars that I've kind of set this, my strategy up for how I, portray myself to the community as I'm running. One of my biggest one is transparency and accessibility. I feel like an elected official, our council and our school board specifically here, I feel like people should be able to contact them and go to coffee or have a phone call. I feel like that's the responsibility of these positions. And so and then combine that with, I would love for a world to where we can be friends with one another, even if we have differences. We can work alongside each other, even though we believe different things, and that our relationships in our community are based more on our commonalities and not our differences. So we're growing. Midlothian's drastically growing, and so one of the things everybody says, I want small town. I want to keep this small town. Well, in my mind, how we treat each other is part of that culture. So if we have 50,000 people here in 10 years, how we're treating each other, if we're just drawing a line because you think differently than me, that's not going to help with that small town feel. So absolutely, I would love for someone to come and talk to me if they think differently. I want to know those opinions. Now, obviously, I don't want you to, to yell at me, but I want to sit and have a civil conversation about, someone's viewpoint. So, those things can be taken into consideration when making decisions.
So you will be able to make yourself available within reason to the people of Midlothian if they have questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of that 20 hours a week or whatever it ends up being, but, allocating time for people. You have to create space for that.
Definitely. So let's go into a little bit of the issues. So the easy one, growth. I mean, every day you hear about, oh well, there's this, there's too much building, the
Yeah.
town is changing. And you kind of touched on this, but with all this growth, and we'll go to all the parts of growth, but in with how do you maintain the culture with such growth? What can you do
Yeah.
as a councilwoman to do that?
Yeah. So the culture, I do think, is in the people. And so our connectivity as a community, how we treat one another, which I've already addressed. So some of that can come out to play in, our parks and rec system and within the city level. What are we doing to foster families getting out and being around each other? As far as how we grow and the types of things coming here and how they're done, that gets into the rules and the ordinances and things like that. So, on one hand, you hear complaints about, tax rates and how it's so expensive or whatever, which there's some things we can't control. I can't control the appraisal value of your home kind of thing, but
Oh, we'll
but
get the taxes. We're
yeah,
gonna get that.
yeah, that is
We'll get
always
the
a topic.
taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but choosing how we grow, where we put things in the community, how closely we're sticking to the plans that were agreed upon, and things like that. I mean, those are the kind of decisions that are so very important. Some of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is the things that the current council are facing today. Some of those things were approved 10 years ago. So some of this is like just doing the best you can with what you're kind of given for a current city council member. So just trying to, make it work in the best with what's best for the community as well.
yeah, and the growth is. I mean, like I said when I started, growth is an easy thing to pick out, but it's probably one of the most pressing issues that are facing Midlothian.
Absolutely.
Growth. What does growth look like to you? Do you are you going to be more apt to approve density? What are your thoughts on how this city should grow?
Yeah. So I'm not, so you mentioned density, so I'll address that first. I'm not a huge fan of high density. We have in our comp plan, we have more neighborhoods and zones that are for larger lots. I like those. I like larger lots that have more character, not just cookie cutter, just straight lines, that kind of curvature and all that kind of stuff. Things that promote walkability, things that when it comes to commercial, when we have zoned something for nightlife and retail, making sure it's nightlife and retail that goes there, so it can, get people going into those spaces and things like that. So the other thing that is the hard thing to navigate is I do think we need to have different options and different types of housing here, as far as the different family sizes. So grandparents are here and they want to stay with the young families that are here. So where are the grandparents staying? And I don't mean like Section 8 housing or anything like that. I'm just saying like different size houses, or everything can still be done well, but we don't have to have these massively high density, neighborhoods or apartments everywhere in order to accommodate that. So just thinking outside the box, getting different types of housing and things like that. Did I answer that question completely?
Yeah, no, you got that. You
Okay.
got that. Now, the development and how they develop,
Yeah.
planning and zoning does a lot of that. But
Hmm.
ultimately, it goes in front of you if you're a councilwoman. And so
Hmm.
they stamp something or they go through the negotiations. I seen a P&Z meeting. I watched one through, and it was interesting. And I did, like you said, nerded out on that. But it does take up a lot of time. It really
Yeah.
does. So when are you going to be open to taking this community input into these big projects that are coming into Midlothian, that are going to drastically change the traffic in this place and the way
Yes.
things are situated? um some people may not be on board on that. Will you be willing to listen? And what are some of your thoughts on how to do those things as far as business, because we were kind of talking about houses, but like
Yeah.
businesses coming in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go ahead into that one.
Yeah. Okay. So several things to note there. So the large corporations coming in, obviously there are pros to that because of the revenue that it pumps into our community. But and I've seen this even here recently of, larger corporations coming in and then making sure that it's a win-win. So, that corporation, that company is looking for certain things that they need met here, but then watching the city and P&Z navigate, how is this a win for our community? Oh, you're going to put that there. Well, what about that road? Like, so many of the conversations will be around road and, getting those traffic counts and how's that going to impact what's the road look like now. So keeping that conversation going, putting that corporation where it needs to go, which most of the time is according to the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan, of not just plopping it somewhere where it doesn't need to be, where it's going to just all of a sudden just really add congestion to an area that we're not ready for. They're making plans way down the line for all the traffic usage. So, I mean, I know that they're going to keep modifications going with traffic, but so that's a big thing. I'm big on the traffic because that's a safety. That's a straight safety thing. But as far as mainly the corporations, making sure that's a win-win. That's my big one there, is to make sure that that's a good partnership for corporations coming in.
Yeah, and one of the things that go with that is abatements. We're
Oh
30
yeah.
minutes from Dallas. Do we really need to be giving abatements? What are your thoughts on that?
So abatements are one that it helps get them here. But as far as our taxes, our tax rates go, it helps us in the long run. I was having a conversation about that just today, is that it's nothing out of our pocket, but in the end, fast forward 10 years, it's going to help us. We're going to get a big old boost here, in however many years, and then they have multiple of those going on. So obviously tax abatements when it makes sense. Again, I don't think
Mhm.
they need to be like throwing them out all over the place, but when it makes sense and it's good for our community and helping with the revenue and everything, yeah, I think it's something we need to consider.
If it gets the right things and the right growth, sometimes those things are needed. But I just, with 30
Yeah.
minutes away from Dallas, I see a
Mm,
lot of people coming here and a lot of people
yeah.
wanting to be here. So
Yeah.
this is definitely something that's going to grow. So
Yeah.
you were talking about roads. Real quick, I'll touch on roads here. Um, One of the ones that are becoming really busy is Walnut Grove, and the
Yeah.
thing with roads that I've noticed when I've talked to other local politician and candidates is a lot of stuff belongs to TxDOT. I get it. We can't really do
Hmm.
too much about TxDOT, but we could talk to TxDOT. We could talk to those politicians that have something to do with TxDOT. Would you be open to doing those things and addressing maybe these things, these roads that are getting a little too congested.
Yeah, I think that's part of the job. Working closely with TxDOT, obviously the staff carries a lot of that responsibility, but I don't I believe this is correct, but just because it's owned by TxDOT doesn't mean you just have to wait around. Like if the city decided, hey, we need to go ahead and do this, and they wanted to use their money to do it. I'm not saying that needs to be done all the time, but there's a working relationship there. If the city decides that this has to be done today, obviously they work with TxDOT, but a lot of times it depends on who's paying for it. So I think there needs to be a really tight collaboration and coordination there and partnership between TxDOT and the city. But yeah, I think that's important. If council needs to be involved in those conversations, it needs to happen because these are major roads here and our major arteries of the city. So yeah, I think that's very important.
One of the things that you do as councilwoman is ordinances and certain codes that come out, and just in general, on codes, and because codes can improve the city,
Hmm.
but it also can make it real burdensome for homeowners.
Hmm. Yeah.
So where are you with that?
Oh, that's such a hard one because I do think everybody's like, I want to be able to do what I want with my property until the neighbor next door wants to do something weird and all,
Hmm.
something that will drive the value of your home down.
The
So I
metal
think that's
dinosaur, the metal dinosaur is just not good.
yes. Yeah,
So
so we're all property rights. We're all about property rights until something like that happens. So I hear all the time about how it's so difficult. We have so many rules and things like that. But I do think it's helping us with our values of our homes here. And so there's a fine line. Obviously, like going back to our conversation earlier, there's a fine line of not wanting to overstep. Like the government's role doesn't need to overstep into a lot of things. But then also, how are we making sure that we're keeping our value and our level of excellence here? How are we doing things well? So that is a hard topic right there for sure, and
that
there's
is.
a lot of opinions.
Now, yeah, it definitely is because it affects those property owners. But it that one's tough. I won't even
Yeah,
get into that one too
yeah.
much. So, so yeah, those things do get in the way. But one of the things that are affecting property owners is obviously taxes. So, oh, wait a minute. I'm so sorry, people. There was one question I wanted to ask you while we were kind of on that growth, and I forgot to ask you, how will you work with the school district on this
Mm,
growth? Because you have the city and the school district have to work together.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's an important partnership. Obviously, everything from monitoring, where they're going with their actual schools and the campuses, that obviously plays into traffic flow and things like that. But then even, the partnership around the facilities, stadiums and things like that, there's partnership there. So I think it's important. I believe right now, once a year, the school board and the city council get together to
I,
collaborate.
I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm sorry.
Um, oh,
Are you there?
oh, you're back now. Did I
Yeah.
cut out on you?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
cut
I'm
out on
here.
me. You froze a little bit. So that's fine. I'm sorry it cut off some of
Okay.
your question or your answer there. Um, so you definitely want to work with the school district because of growth roads and stuff like that. So you're willing to reach out to them and make a working relationship. And I think that the city and the school board do have a pretty good relationship. I
Yeah.
even remember they had a meeting not too long ago together. um
Yeah. Yeah.
so going into the favorite subject of everybody, taxes and budget. And people, these are the things that get brought up because people are actually getting ready to lose their homes, and that's not being dramatic, over taxes, property taxes. So the biggest tax burden or the biggest taxes here are the schools. Can't do nothing about that. But you can do something about the taxes that Midlothian City charges. So give me kind of a rundown where you're at with taxes.
Yeah. So this is the big topic. So and it gets confusing also because let me make sure I'm back and you can hear me
You're
right.
good. I can hear
Okay.
you. It's good.
Okay, good. So this is where it gets confusing because our tax rate has like it stayed the same between this year and last year, and it's technically been ticking down a little bit, but our appraisals are going up. So what the homeowner, what the citizen sees, is paying out the wazoo on a ton of taxes every year. And a lot of that has to do with our appraisal system, and so or the appraisals and everything going up. So we're paying more taxes. The tax rate's staying the same. We want to make sure everything's done really nice and well here. But the more we do that, the more the appraisal's going up. So, but the only way to do that is make sure your appraisal's going down, and we don't want anything. We don't want to do that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's definitely it's hard. And with the other thing with Midlothian that's unique to some of the other large communities is we're still growing drastically. Like Waxahachie, they've been around. They're grown. I mean, they're not that they're not growing, but our rate of growth is so high right now, and so we have a lot going. And so, in order to maintain this budget and the what we have coming and what we need to be doing, all these roads and all this infrastructure and things that we're talking about, in order to keep up with the growth, it's like, how are they keeping all that balanced? So I think it's, and going back to the tax abatement conversation, I think that's some of the things that are helping and will help in the future as we continue to track all of this. So, yeah, it's a big one. And then our debt load, that's one that, people look at a lot is so of our tax rate, 40% of that tax rate is our debt, which might seem a little high, but again, we're growing a ton. And that's going to be switching over the years as we continue to pull down from our debt and be able to get things implemented and things like that. So I don't know. I think that the staff does a really good job of juggling all the budget and making the recommendations and things like that. When we compare, like Waxahachie has a very different setup on how they do their bonds or their big projects and things like that. Both have pros and cons. Both sides have pros and cons. So this is definitely the hot topic. I don't want I don't want the tax rate to go up. I would love for it to go down through different ways, but also maintain that level of excellence and that high threshold that we have here. But that's obviously going to continue to drive up our appraised value. So can you figure that out for me and then let me
Yeah.
know? And
Well, at least you're
it is
open to. So can they count on you to always be a good steward of their money and the
absolutely
people in
fiscal
Midlothian?
responsibility. Yeah, being fiscally responsible, I think, is very important. And so,
So
making those decisions. One of the things, real quick, on the bonds recently, the fact that they even put the bonds out to the community to vote on, I think, is a huge deal. Like getting people's opinions on all that, I think is really important. So, anyways, go ahead. What were you going to
it's
ask?
very important. No, that's good. We're running out of time. So
Okay.
unfortunately, we were having a good conversation talking about
Yeah,
this. So I'm gonna
about
give you kind
taxes.
of a quick one. Yeah, death and taxes, right? But I want to let's see. I want you to get your statement out to the people of Midlothian. But I wanted to ask you too, can Midlothian Police Department count on your support?
Absolutely. Yeah, as far as supporting the police department and the growth, I mean,
The
especially
police, yes, yes.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I was a big proponent for the new the police station. I think that's much needed. So absolutely, I think that's very important in our
Excellent.
community.
All right. Well, this is the part in the show where you get to talk to the people of Midlothian. You get to tell them why they should vote for Miss Anna Hammonds, and so I'm gonna let you go ahead and do the solo and just shut up and let you go ahead.
Awesome.
You take
Well,
care. Hold on.
okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Talk to him.
Okay, well, Midlothian, again, Anna Hammonds here. I'm running for place 3 on city council, and I'm just excited to be out here and to be connecting with you over Facebook. I would love to connect with you in person over the phone. So please, you can follow my campaign page and reach out to me. But the three things I want to point out of kind of my pillars of what I'm running on is accessibility and transparency. Again, this is just being able to have that conversation. So I want you to know that you can come and talk to me. The growth that we've spent time talking about, I'm very interested, concerned. I think it's very important that we grow well as a community and that we make the decisions around that. And then the last thing is I want to make sure to be a good ambassador of the community members, representing the community members to the city and the city to the community members. So I think Midlothian is great. I want us to continue to be being great. And I hope that you reach out to me if you have any questions or want to chat, and I'm always available. Oh, and I almost you all,
Do
I'm
not
almost
forget.
done.
Do not forget.
I was gonna say early voting is end of April, and election day for this election is May 7th. So not to be confused with election day tomorrow for county and primaries and all of that kind of stuff and state. So our election day for this race is May 7th.
Make sure you guys get out to vote. Get out to vote tomorrow. Those are very important elections, and
Yeah,
get out to vote in May, for the people that actually matter, that actually control what your mortgage payment will be through taxes, what you where you're
yeah,
going to be driving, what your kids going to be learning. There, these people, the people that you elect locally are the ones who guide that. So you have to
yeah.
be involved. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time.
I appreciate you doing this. This is great that you do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You take care.
All right.